On my honour, I promise to do my best to be true to my spiritual beliefs, to contribute to my community and our world, to help other people and to live by the Scout law.
Pack, pack, pack! Pack, pack, pack! Pack, pack, pack! Oh, g'day Cubs, Pharrell here. Today we're talking about hikes and how you can plan them. Stay tuned. Cubs, Pharrell again. Today we're talking about planning your walk. We can't go out in COVID-19, but we can plan a fantastic walk using a map or Google Earth. And the best thing about it is we can plan to go anywhere we want. We just have to look at terrain and where we're going to walk, how far. So let's do it together. You know, in a situation like this, where we're planning routes, we've really got to take into account that the roads and footpaths and where we're going to the next point. So when we're planning our route, really take care of where we can cross the road safely, ideally at traffic lights or crossings or walk crossings, and make sure that we never cross the road. This is a great situation. As you can see, the road bends and we can't see what's coming around the corner. So when we're looking at our maps, make sure that we don't ever cross a road on a corner. That way we're not surprised by cars coming around. You know, it's always a great idea when we go for a walk that we always look for the easy access. Stairs are a really important point. We don't want to scramble up hills where things could be a real problem. What we want to do is find easy access to the places we want to go. On planning your route, it's really important to make sure that you take your map. Very important to make sure you point out all landmarks to not lose your way. As you can see here, the Scouts are making sure that they know the route.
So here we have Bike Map found on the internet. It's a great way of planning a trip. You can see on the right hand side we've got the distance that the route is and the gradient, which is represented by the blue line. And then we've got the overall map, which is a great resource for when you're sending it out to the pack, and then you can zoom in to see access points along the route in case someone gets sick or you need to turn around, and really good for things like roads and crossover points where there might be a danger of hitting people or you being hit by, say, a cyclist. And you can also plan for traffic lights on the road if you enlarge these maps quite a bit. You can also plan the overall route so you know where all the twists and turns are, and so you can know your rough location when you're actually out on the walk. And lastly, you can of course plan a point where you might stop for a break, for something to eat and drink. Here I've obviously done a break in Parkland. You can see I've exploded the map a little bit, which might be excellent for you guys to put together when you're doing your walk, those sort of places, because everyone needs a rest.
So we talked about maps on the street and how we can plan a route around the suburbs, but we haven't really discussed how we can plan a route in the bush. For this we need a map that represents topography as well as where we're going with easy access and routes out of bushland. So maps like this, which are, this particular map is a map of the high country, we would be able to plan rivers and we'd be able to see forests and tracks out. As well as that, we can also see the topography of the land by grid lines, and we can also see contour lines, which tells us how high or the gradient and what we're going to walk.
So some things to consider when we're planning our bushwalk, such as access points in and out, which is really important in case someone's to get sick or needs some gear or is just too tired. Similarly, we need to plan for routes around obstacles such as rivers, look for landmarks that can be identified, use the contour lines and gradients on our map to make sure that we understand, check the weather and look for closures in parks and wherever we're going to walk, which is usually on websites listed. So very important points to consider, all these, and a big part of our planning. So here we are on the insert of our map. It's got contour lines which tell us how steep it might be when we're travelling, and you can also see little numbers on the side which indicate the distances of the track. There's also a number of access points and different tracks we can take if the weather changes or there's some sort of emergency. So looking at the overall map gives us a sense of travel time to our start point and from our end point.
Another important aspect of planning a hike is to make sure everyone has the right gear. Now, the first thing we need is obviously a backpack for everybody. That way we can put all our stuff in it when we're hiking. Of course, we definitely need a drink. And I would suggest that we only take water, because water is actually good for hydration. And of course, we all must have a raincoat and a jumper, because obviously if it rains we're going to need to be dry, and if it's cold we need to have a jumper. On this particular model I've got the raincoat and the jumper contained as one, but you can certainly take two. As the leader of our walk, we must also take a compass, especially when we're out in the bush. Often maps like the one that we talked about earlier have grid references or have compass bearings that we can use if we get lost to make sure that we're following the right route. We can actually point our compass and find north or west, or actually find a compass bearing, which you guys have done during your time at Cubs. Okay, so we've been talking about going bush, and another thing we can do to let people know where we are is to use trail signs. Trail signs direct people in a way that's actually not like written down, but it's kind of like a bush shorthand. We've done some bush shorthand. If you have a look at the photo that's on screen now, you'll see a trail sign. Do you know what it is? So go to Cub TV on Facebook, post some answers and some photos of what you've learned about trail signs and what you've learned about doing a walk, even if you wanted to post your whole walk up on Facebook so we can see where you want to go. Or post some photos of you and your family going for a walk on a route you decided to go on. Look forward to what you have to offer. See you in the next video. We're good? Alright. Not getting lost today. Okay, so we've talked about... Okay, so... important aspect of planning a hike. Well, why don't you go to Cub TV, just hang out, yo? Woo! We're hanging out, gnarly! So,
This has been recorded by the Eltham North Cub Group for Scouts, Victoria.